Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be showcasing my rendition of Matter Red from Bedlam. I start all my drawings out with a light sketch using a 9H Staedtler pencil. Occasionally I will darken the lines with my Grafgear 0.3 mechanical pencil, which uses 3H lead, before adding color. This is not my preferred method, since the alcohol markers I use tend to drag the pencil, and depending on the color I'm using, this can show through the color and it's impossible to remove. The next step is coloring. Depending upon the drawing, how many different colors are going to be used or the look I'm going for. I've had over 30 markers on my desk being utilized for one drawing. In a typical drawing, I'd say I use between 10 and 20 markers. There are different methods to using alcohol markers to achieve different looks, but the method that I currently enjoy the most deals with heavy layering to get a more even blend between colors or between shadows and highlights. This method does change for certain things like clothing or metal that I want to have high shine. I will blend the shadows with the highlights a lot less, and in some cases I won't blend them at all. The next step is an optional step for me, which is coloring backgrounds. If my drawing is a portrait style picture, I will almost always have a background. However, this is solely dependent on the paper size, which the common sizes I use are 4x6, 5x7, and 6x9. Though I occasionally do use 3.5x5. Anything up to a 5x7 will almost always have a background of some kind, generally a solid color. I don't normally color backgrounds in for the 6x9 drawings just because it's too much ink being used. In this case, Matter Red is on a 4x6, so he will get a colored background. Initially, I wanted an ombre background from light orange to dark orange, but once I put the dark orange down, I realized it had way too much red in it, which made me hate it, so I opted for a solid red color instead. The final step in my process is adding line art. Over the years of drawing using different brands of pigment pens, I've become a hardcore fan of black liner pigment pens by Molotow. I have used quite a few highly recommended brands, some lesser known brands, but specifically Sakura and Faber-Castell. And I found that black liner pens have been the least likely to feather or get dragged by the alcohol marker. Of course, using the correct paper also helps prevent those issues, which for me in this case means using Bristol Smooth. getting back to the pins, the sizes I always use are 0.1 millimeter and 0.05 millimeter. I do occasionally use 0.2 millimeter and 0.03 millimeter. Generally, it's gonna be dependent on what size my paper is. So for like a 6x9, I'm probably gonna have a lot larger things, so that's generally where the 0.2 comes in. For some of the smaller drawings, especially things that are on a 3.5x5 or a 4x6, I will often use a 0.05 or the 0.03 millimeter. On a side note, I'm farsighted, so I usually hover over my work like a plague, so sorry for my ugly head being in a lot of this video. Well, there you have it, the final product, which I hate, but I hope you all like it. Thanks for watching. Bye!